right now it's difficult to pitch, right? So you have more opportunity to do it yourself right now. It's actually a good time to do things yourself. So I'm going to say you can. And there are so many platforms and avenues for you to take advantage of. And I think as a writer, I really do think that your power comes from what you know. Even if it's not your story per se, but if you're fascinated with ancient Rome and that's your jam, then write about it, because you're going to write about it with more passion than anyone else, and your stories are important, even though, oh my God, our stories are so important. They really impact and they touch people in, even if you feel like they're so intimate to you, they're actually universal. The more intimate they are, the more universal they are. And so I think if we tell our stories, that's the way to pay it forward as an artist.
Welcome to Third and Fairfax, the official podcast of the Writers Guild of America West. I'm your host, Brian Gary. In our latest episode, Moon Zappa talks with filmmaker and fellow podcast host Susie Singer Carter about her eye-opening doc-series, No Country for Old People. Susie's series exposes the nursing home elder abuse crisis, advocating for accountability, transparency, and people over profits. She also has her personal connection to the subject, why it was important to get her documentary Guild covered, and a whole lot more. Listen and subscribe to Third and Fairfax on Spotify, Apple, or Libsyn, and watch us on the Writers Guild of America West's YouTube channel. And now, here's Moon in conversation with our very own Susie.
I'm very excited about this particular episode because it is with a filmmaker and fellow podcaster here at the WGA, and this film is so rebellious and so it just covers a lot of territory that I think you're really going to enjoy. So I have to welcome Susie Singer Carter. Welcome to Third and Fairfax, the podcast of the Writers Guild of America West. And the film is No Country for Old People. And it is so wonderful to be here with you.
Oh my gosh, it's so wonderful to be here. And it's very odd being on this side of the microphone. So I will be, but I'm going to use it. I'm going to take this advantage because it's very important, this project.
Yeah, so you've made a film. It's a 3-part docu-series. Mm-hmm. That, again, just covers so much ground and stirs up so much outrage about elder care, specifically about Alzheimer's and your mother. And so I would love for you to just talk about how did this project come about?
Right. So you said my mom had Alzheimer's for 16 years, which is a very long trek, and it can be a very long journey. And when that happens, you live long enough, you will run out of money, you will run out of your nest egg. It's just going to happen unless you're the 1%. And my mom was one of my favorite people, so I adored her, and I was her caregiver in terms of her, what they call a conservative person. I could care less about the money. It was more about just keep making sure she was happy and safe and having a quality life. So when she was progressing in her Alzheimer's, just when she needed nursing home care, they were going to kick her out of her assisted living, because once you don't have private funding, they're like, bye. So you have to go to a facility that has Medicaid, and she needed more care. But
how did you know to start that process and be like, I'm going to make a documentary about this process? Like, what was the original thinking?
Well, the thinking was not until the crisis happened. I had no idea. This was not something I planned in my life at all. No, I thought, I was doing my filmmaking, and I had just started a podcast called Love Conquers Alls, and I was like, oh my God, I have to get my mom into a place that I can trust. And there was a 5-star facility in Los Angeles that everybody was saying, you have to get your mom, and that's where she should be. And there was a 3-year waiting list, and I jumped the waiting list because I said, I can play piano, I can sing, I'll do anything. I'm doing a movie with Valerie Harper. She'll come in and talk, and we'll do a razzmatazz. Long story short, I got her in. And every podcast I would say, I can sleep at night, I can sleep. And then came COVID. And COVID was an eye-opener for everybody, because once they shut the doors and kept out family for over a year and a half, that's when the shit hit the fan. Because when families were there, it was hard to see what was happening with the actual system, which is massively understaffed and massively underfunded for the residents, but you don't know it because it's kept, whenever you're there, no one's going to come out and blame. You're not going to see it, and you don't want to see it. If something's wrong, you might go, Mom doesn't look so clean today. Maybe, I'm being picky, right? And you don't want to be too pushy, and you're grateful that she's being cared for in such a great place. And so, but
okay, so COVID's the instigator. You've put her in the home before COVID hits.
Correct.
And because you're not really able to stay in close contact with her at all. Okay, zero.
You're doing Zooms once a week.
Okay.
And every Zoom at 3 p.m. once a week, I saw my mom.
And so, but why did you, again, what made you go, and also a documentary?
Okay, I'm getting there. I'm working up to that. It is a.
Because normally people just put someone in a home, and then,
as we all do, and then I saw my mom slipping away. I saw her slipping away on the Zoom and saying, "Why is she in bed at 3 p.m. and she's not dressed?"
But not everybody goes, "Why is she not dressed?" and then makes a documentary. Do you see what I'm saying?
Oh! Are you trying to get me to say why Susie did it? I'm sitting at home one night watching Dope Sick, right? The miniseries about the Purdue Pharma Sackler family, which is also in another horrible situation. And the lead prosecutor, Rick Montcalf, who was played by Peter Sarsgaard, is like a rock star. And at the end of that miniseries, he says that their next case is going to be another pharmaceutical against Abbott Labs, who were off marketing Depakote to nursing homes to chemically restrain them. My mom ended up in a wheelchair and was incontinent for the last 8 years of her life because of Depakote. I didn't know she was on it. I thought she was progressing 8 years prior. I get him on my podcast. I'm like, tell everybody about chemical restraining, because I didn't know a thing about it till her doctor said, your mom's on a black label drug, like she can die from this. So he comes on and talks about it, and I'm telling him what's going on with my mom. And he, after the podcast, he goes, I prosecuted federally nursing homes for 20 years, and I have never seen any change, even though I won my cases. It's only gotten worse. This is not specific to you. This is not the facility. This is a systemic crisis. And that was the motivation for me to go. I've seen too much. I've heard too much. And no one deserves this. And how does nobody know that this is going on? And then I found out through Rick and all of our other experts about the business model that's been in place for 50 years.
This crazy shell game.
The shell game. It's basically criminal enterprise. It's money laundering and related parties and being veiled because they have protection because of the corporate structure. There's no transparency. There's no enforcement. There's no oversight, and there's no penalty. It's the cost of doing business.
And you discover this just from trying to give your mother the best care, to have her life have been meaningful all the way to the end. And that's the other piece that I found so, and I'm sorry to make it be anecdotal because this is, a real thing that happened, but I have, questions. Okay. So one thing I really, if you could say I loved something in the film, because you're sitting there just like with your fists clenched the whole time, if you're me. But it's to know that it's not just a person there, it's a whole lifetime that you're saying goodbye to. It's your mother, you go into how you were raised and your mother's wonderful profession. Can you talk a little bit about what you got to?
That was a tough decision because this wasn't like a tribute to my mom. I didn't want this to be a tribute to my mom. That wasn't the intention. Like I could do that at home in a scrapbook. But I knew that if we were going to make any change, it had to touch the heart, and we had to resonate with others. So the only way to do that was to humanize the story and was to say, look, this is a human being. This is a person who was fierce and cool and sang like a bitch and was like so great and my favorite person and a lot of people's favorite person, and still had more game in a bed at the end of her life than I've ever had with men. Like, she just was incredible. It's like so unfair. But it was like, I mean, that was my mom, right? And so I thought, and I remember when everybody was dismissing us, even in the hospitals, everywhere, I would play her tracks from Capitol Records, and I'd play them loud and sing along, and people would go walking by, and they'd go stop and go, wait, who is that singing? I go, that lady there. And they'd go, oh my God. She said, I know. And I did it because I wanted to humanize her. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I started the doc with, talking about who she was, what she meant to other people, what she meant, and it isn't dissimilar to anybody's life. Like, you don't have to be a singer to have value. But when you get to a certain age, because we have massive ageism in our society, we are so individualistic, and then you add on the ableism, which is the dementia, you have a recipe for disaster because you are valueless in the eyes of our society. You bring nothing. You're a liability. That's it.
When you were making the film, and now that you're on the other side of the film, did you have a fear that somebody would come after you for exposing them to the world?
Yes, I did. I said to Rick when we first started working together, I said, "Oh my God, it's like we're talking billions of dollars here. Do I need a bodyguard?" And he was like, and he, he's been some fierce cases, and he actually prosecuted the head of the Russian mafia, which is a whole other story, who said, you're nothing but an empty suit. As he told him, Cordy goes, I don't think you need a bodyguard. They're going to try to discredit you and make you look like an idiot. And that's what they're going to do, which is starting to happen now.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's
I'm
starting
sorry
to
hear that.
Yeah, it's going to. It
just means you're onto something. Because if someone's coming for you, that means you got close to something that you're exposing.
100%.
So, and talk about the signatory piece of this journey.
Right. So I decided to go signatory with it because even though I was going to direct and produce, I thought I want to do this legitimately. I want to have an LLC. I want it to be mainstream, and I wanted it to be recognized by the WGA. And I'm involved with the WGA. I've done 2 small documentaries for the WGA for Women's History Month, and they were really well received. And I wanted to continue that, and really, I did want to show that you can do this. I did it with my short film. I became signatory, and it was very eye-opening for the Women's Committee because they were like, "Wait, you can do a short film signatory." I was like, "Yes, you can," and that helps us as professionals because it adds to our health insurance, and it gives us a credit. That's those are important things that we need as tools as writers, right? Mm-hmm. So I thought I'm going to be in this project for a long time. I knew it was going to be at least a couple of years. It's been 3 years. So that's why I did it. And then hiring people, I was hoping to raise enough money to hire another writer with me. That didn't happen, but we had just enough to get through it. So that's why I did it. I think it's important that we take our careers into our own hands as writers, especially now, especially with all of the technology that's out there and that we need to embrace. So I think it's important to be more of an entrepreneur and more of an independent writer, producer.
In the process, did you? Okay, so the experts that you spoke to, how did you assemble? Like, how did you just? There's your life, but in terms of the storytelling, how did you assemble this documentary in terms of like just the structure and how you put it together?
Right. So,
because you've got other families, you've got the nurses and So
I had one assistant when we started because it was right before the strike, and then I had to let her go when the strike happened, and so we started doing research like who's out there. She found the girl on TikTok, our nurse, who was amazing, and she's young, and I wanted that kind of input from her perspective. Rick encouraged me to file a lawsuit because not for any other reason but to put them on record, and being a federal prosecutor, he said it was really important that you do that. So in doing that, I found how difficult it was to get a lawyer to take the case because, first of all, they were beloved in our community, and everybody was like, first they would look at the case and go, absolutely, I want this case hands down, and then they were like, we have a conflict. And so I started seeing that this was an issue, and then I finally got connected to CANNER, which is the California Attorneys for Nursing Home Reform up in San Francisco. They are a group of attorneys who have gotten together to protect, for elder law.
I mean, it's sad that they even have to assemble like this, but they do.
They do. I found them by, like Rick says, there's no coincidences. I mean, I Googled, like, what do you do if nobody will take your case? And CANNER came up. So I sent them the case, and they said, we've got someone for you, this lawyer. I said, are you sure? Because everyone's turning me down. And they said, well, who have you talked to? I give them the list. They go, well, they're not on our list. They can't be that good, right? So, yeah. And so through the lawyer that I met, who was such a fierce woman and had gone into this field because of her own grandma. So everybody that's is an advocate had something happen to them, right? And she started talking about other people that like CANNER, they're very big in advocacy in terms of bringing bills to Congress and da-da-da. And then I got connected to the National Consumer Voice for Quality Long-Term Care through my lawyer. They are national. They were started by Ralph Nader in '74, but that gives you an idea of how long this problem's been around, right?
Yeah.
And they became my fiscal sponsor. And through them, I met they were saying, you need to talk to so-and-so, you need to talk to Charlene Harrington. Have you talked to Ernie Tosh? He's the guy with the whiteboard telling you all about, they're literally killing your family to make more money. I mean, he's blunt about it.
Yeah. And you talked to some other families. Can you talk a little bit about how you got them to share their stories?
Yeah, I did. People would, when I was in the middle of this, I had people saying, I talked to somebody, do you want to talk to them? I just saw this article, the Stewart family, the African-American family, that was just they touched my heart so much. Mm-hmm. I cried through that whole interview. Yeah. And they become advocates with us right now. So, but, that's how that happened. And by and large, every family that I talked to, the details might be slightly different, but the process was the same. And we all ended up feeling like, what planet are we on? Like, how is this happening? Why? We all were gaslit. We all had retaliation. So if you become a good advocate, you're going to be retaliated against. Which doesn't feel good. And it also exasperates their neglect.
Can you explain, what's an example of going in and doing some advocacy? I mean, what would be, in the film you talk about just literally giving your mother some food and water.
They wouldn't let me give her anything. They let her suck on a sponge, but only from me. After a while, because I bugged them so much.
So you would go for a visit.
I'd go for a visit, and I would come out. I would say, my mom's catheter, are you sure? I don't want to get graphic, but there was something wrong with it. And I said, I think there's something wrong with it. They'd go, oh, no, that's normal. No, because it wasn't like that yesterday and the day before and the day before. So could you have the nurse come in and check? Yeah, sure, we'll do that. And the next day when you're back, it still hasn't been checked. So you say, I'm going to stand here then now until you call somebody and let's have someone come in and do a test and check. And then the next time you come in, they don't talk to you. And then the next time you come in, they say, you're not allowed to go in there while we're changing her. You have to stay in the hall, which is actually, I didn't know my rights. They couldn't do that, but because I didn't want to cause more problem, I stood out in the hallway.
Right, because you want to make sure that they don't take it out on your mother.
Right.
In that circumstance. So, also in this film, you again, you've got your own family that's in the process. Mm-hmm. I mean, the heartbreaking shot of your granddaughter,
My little granddaughter, yeah.
who just climbs on your
She's 2
mom,
years old,
and she
yeah.
just, I mean, I would be scared as a very little person seeing the state of my grandmother, and
They connected, right?
yeah, that was amazing.
That's what's
to
so
see.
beautiful, because people think, oh, well, they're just lumps in a bed. No, they're not. They're human beings.
Right.
And she saw that because she had no other framework but to say, oh, that's my nanny. I saw her. She had been seeing her on Zoom. So she was so excited. She just climbed on up and was patting her and making nice and going, mwah, 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 and my mom was going, mwah, mwah, mwah. And they had a conversation.
Yeah.
And that was so powerful, right? I want to just mention about the lobby. There's a nursing home lobby, and that's our biggest hurdle in this fight, is that there's a lobby just like the pharmaceutical, just like the NRA, who pay millions and millions and millions of dollars to keep everything status quo.
Right. And you did this film before all of the madness around immigration nightmares. And so I would think that a lot of the community that was caring for the elderly was, people that are not necessarily.
Immigrants.
Yeah, they're immigrants, that are.
And actually, that's a problem, because there's so many people. We'll talk about moral injury, right? So there's moral injury on our frontline providers, from nurses and doctors and our CNAs, who are really the hands-on, who have left the industry because they can't handle it. It's too much. I mean, they have PTSD. And so you have people coming in that these are like a side gig. It's like, because they can make more money washing dishes.
That's horrendous.
And there's no
Right.
benefits. There's not a lot of training. There's like an hour training. I mean, it's seriously bad.
Wow.
And this is bad. It's bad.
Right.
And so, but even that said, what if someone has nowhere to go? What's going to happen with Medicaid cuts, and what's going to happen with all of this,
Right. So, but
disappearing?
you do end on a hopeful note with some
Yes.
potential.
Yes, we do. We do.
But you set up. This is how bad it is, people, and but you're still encouraging people to write the letters and to.
Right. We're starting a movement called ROAR, which is Respect, Oversight, Advocacy, and Reform for Long-Term Care, because I think my whole team and I said, well, how do we change this? Like, unless we have bags of cash, how are we going to change this? Like any other bad situation has been changed, like the LGBTQ, like the Me Too movement, like Black Lives Matter, and on and on and on. We have to take responsibility for this as a collective, because the only power that we have is in our constituency, and we need to shame our politicians, and we need to get out on the streets and protest and say, we're done.
But you would think that they would be on board with this. They had to have had people that in their families that they put
individually.
that they put into facilities like this. Does anybody have a positive outcome in these places? I mean, you talked about how when you first go to these places, you've got basically like the salesman.
Yeah.
And
You buy the lobby, basically. Yeah. Yeah. Well, because most people, and I understand it, like we all go in, we're like, nobody wants to, unless you don't have a good relationship with your family, then you're like, get in there, go, bye. But I mean, most of us are like, it's horrible. It's horrible to have to drop your family member off that you love. And you walk in and you're like, oh my God, it's so beautiful, and they have good food, and and people seem really nice and they're caring, but it's all a sales job. But you don't realize it. Mm-hmm. So,
and you also want to believe.
You want to believe it,
so
right?
that combination kind of sets up.
They know that we're vulnerable.
Yeah, exactly.
We're vulnerable.
And then when you are in that situation, I mean, like, has there ever been a positive version of this? Like, did it ever start off good and then it tanked?
Well, listen,
I mean, for example, I grew up with George Burns movies and all the cast of Cocoon and the Golden Girls. Like, we were seeing exemplary, beloved role models, and and so we had, you wanted everyone to. I mean, they were the heroes of the stories.
Yeah. We have those people out there. Like, I was trying to develop a project for Fox called Forever Young about assisted living, and nobody, and like, they paid me to write everything. It was a great project. It was funny. It had a younger.
What year was this? Because you're just ahead of your time, right? Now it's probably the perfect time to
It
go back.
probably is, yeah. And I had so many people attached, and they were like, it's about old people, but it wasn't about it, and so
Everyone's going to be old.
I know, that's the thing. And like. It's so frustrating.
If you're lucky.
If you're lucky.
And then if you're lucky enough to get a spot in one of these places.
Right. And then, listen, if you're not the 1% and you end up with a progressive disease where you're very vulnerable, it's not a good place to be. And are there good places out there? Of course, there's some good places.
Are there? I mean, you
There are some good places. They're the outliers. That's the problem. They're not the norm.
Mm-hmm.
And if it were switched around, it would still matter, because everybody should have the right to have good quality care, and no one should have to, hope that they're the lucky one.
Right.
It should all be standardized, and it should all be quality, dignity, and integrity.
And that's part of what you talk about at the end of the film, and the hope that you're giving is. Can you share some of the things that some of the experts had to say about what is where we're heading, hopefully?
Well, I mean, we need, like I said, we need to, as a collective, we need to get back to community. Community is super important. There's all kinds of models that are out there, like the greenhouse model and the Eden Project. These are kinds of long-term care models.
And what are those models?
Well, they're community based, really. Like some of them, it depends on your what kind of, how many.
Meaning like the outer community, like when you say community.
Well, in other words, you're not. It's a home and not a facility. So people are given dignity. They're given purpose. Like, if you ever watched the Blue Zone, that documentary, if you see why people have longevity, it's because they have purpose and community. Those are the two biggest things, right? And good food, but mostly community and purpose, because without that, you have failure to thrive. And that's what happened during COVID. All those people had failure to thrive because they had no purpose and no community.
And do you provide resources in some location? Do you have a website?
We have a website,
so for people that might not get a chance to see the film,
Yeah. I mean, you can contact us. There's all kinds of stuff on our website at nocountryforoldpeople.com. And also the National Consumer Voice for Quality Long-Term Care has so much more resource than we do. Like, if we don't know it, we're going to tell you, get a hold of them. They have been doing this for 50 years, so they are really, comprehensive in the kind of research that they have and resources that they have. So there's definitely resources. It's just that I think getting back to you saying, should we start younger? Absolutely, so that we understand it. We become the customer again. When you're not the customer, when the government's the customer, really, because they are holding the purse. What chance do you have?
On this side of it now, personally, professionally, would you do anything different, knowing what you know now?
Oh.
As a filmmaker, but also as somebody who was...
With the knowledge I have
Yeah.
I mean, I would be able to know what my rights were. I didn't know what my rights were at all. I didn't know, like, all that stuff that I stumbled upon, like the doctor in the emergency. I don't know if you remember that. And all that stuff. I had no idea. I didn't know what hospice was. That's why I wanted to explain what hospice was, as opposed to, different kind of care that that they throw at you. You're going to have this kind of care or that kind of care, and it's all based on financials.
And as a filmmaker, would you have done anything different?
Well, if I had more money, I would have done it. I would have had more crew. I don't think I would have changed the story at all. I think the story is the story. And I'm very proud of the fact that we were able to attract all the strong voices that we needed. These are the people that are the true advocates that have really been doing this. They are the vocational advocates, and they're intelligent. Their backgrounds are just incredible. Like, I'm honored and humbled. Charlene Harrington, who's the godmother of, she's an emeritus professor from San Francisco University and has been advocating in Congress for 50 years and for minimum staffing. And she, when I got to meet her in person, I was like, I broke into tears, and she said, "You're such a good daughter." And that made me, I was gone. I was like, these are incredible people. These are, I feel very honored that Jane Fonda stepped up and put, and endorsed us. And I thought, see, those are the people that are my role models. Lily Tomlin did, Lisa Gibbons did, and even the director from Dopesick, because he knew about it from the beginning, and he was like, "This has to get done." Like he called me at 2 a.m. one night. He goes, "I just read your pitch. You have to do this."
And you have done it.
It wasn't easy. We needed more money, but money, you do what you do.
The activism piece, I mean, you've had a history of activism, but this seems like you've really zeroed in on this as a result of your experiences. Moving forward in terms of your activism, are you planning on making any other films or doing something more with this? I mean, besides the hit series that you're going to write for somebody.
Yeah. So I just optioned a book called Inflamed that I was just blown away by because it felt like a narrative, but it's actually a true story. And it's about two very high-end facilities assisted living facilities up in Northern California, Sonoma. During the brush fires, then they were abandoned. During the brush fires, left all of the residents there, and a handful of family members went and saved everybody. And then it's followed up with the court case, which is just heinous. And so it's I hate saying this, but it's exciting because it's a story of heroism, really. And also it really frames older people in a way that is different, even though they're in homes. And so that really appealed to me, and I thought it was a good follow-up to this.
Before you were in this lane.
Yeah. I was doing CBS Saturday Morning. I was.
And how did you look for projects at that time? And how do you envision your career moving forward? And what were some of the things you did differently in terms of?
Like I said, I did 2 CBS Saturday Morning for girls, the tween block, and then I went and did Bratz, the movie, and so I was like getting like the tween queen. That was like my moniker at the time because I enjoyed it, and I'm sort of a perennial teenager. I never thought, I'm happy. I love working with kids. I like upbeat stories. I went and worked again with the director, same director from Bratz, and we did Soul Surfer, which was the movie about Bethany Hamilton together. Co-produced that, wrote the final draft on that, and it's uplifting. I like a good takeaway. Like,
Mm-hmm.
give me a good takeaway,
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted, and I had a first look deal at Fox after that, which I said I did the
Mm-hmm.
pilot. So I want to do fun things. I had a project in development about A&M Records with Herb Alpert and Jerry Moss. And, we went the distance with Dave Madden, and it didn't get picked up. But that was a very passionate story of mine. But I want to do stories that highlight good people, because Herb and Jerry were these amazing maverick Renaissance men that did it the right way with integrity. So I want to highlight that instead of the other. There's plenty of other, and it's not like I'm Pollyanna, but I think that we need that infusion of positivity, that we can have integrity and still prevail.
Yeah. So with this new narrative that's like taking on this book, do you have a plan for how you're going to adapt it? I
want to do a miniseries similar to like Dopesick.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's perfect because it has all those elements of intrigue and heroism, and then our court system case, which was very much a part of the whole thing of Dopesick, and I think those are eye-opening for people to see what goes on in those kinds of court cases and how they're manipulated and the frustrations of it. So I think that's what I'm hoping it does, because Dopesick did a really good thing for OxyContin. It opened up people's eyes to really see why it was so egregious that they were pushing it out to the public and lie and all the lies that accompanied their marketing, and how innocent people believing their doctors became highly addicted to this stuff it's deadly, and if it isn't deadly, it changes your chemistry in your brain for the rest of your life.
And what is it about writing that like, how did you know you were a writer?
Did you know you were a writer? I didn't know. I didn't. I mean, I went to UCLA. I thought I was going to be a journalist. And then I thought, this is boring. It was very boring to me. I got my FCC license. I had my own radio show for a while. And I was like, this is so lonely. And then...
You're like, I'm on an even lonelier job.
I'm so lonely. It's like really lonely. And my first husband was an actor. He was at UCLA, and he was like the star of the theater arts department. And I would go over there, and I felt like everyone was wearing a mask. And then I thought I was like higher than them. And then I was like, these people are fun. I kind of like them. I kind of want to be part of them. And I started acting. And then when I was going out for roles, I thought, I think I could write some better. And so that's how I did. I started writing my own stuff, and I got a deal. And then I got signed with William Morris. Like on my first project, I thought, so easy. So I got this down. This is so easy.
Yeah.
And then, of course, then like 20 years later, I'm still pounding the pavement trying to get things sold.
No, you're so right. I didn't know that I was a writer necessarily. I knew I loved words, and but I didn't see myself represented. I still don't.
Yeah.
And so, like you said, got to just do it yourself then. So
yeah, I say that my super sauce, my secret power is that people underestimate me, right? And I talk about it in the documentary for WGA, that there's a blonde bias, and there just is, and I mean, it's blatant. Like, it's not just I'm thinking it. No, like, it's said. Like, things are said after I leave a room. So I know that that happens. So,
but not if you're a musician or an actor. The bias goes the other way around.
Oh yeah, no, it's great if you're that. But if you you need to come in with glasses.
Yeah.
And you don't wear a bustier like this with a tie. It's not good. I don't care anymore.
You can't help that
I
you're
don't care
stylish.
Anymore.
Yeah.
I can't care because I know I'm doing good work. That's the thing. Like, I know I'm doing good work, and as long as your work ethic is intact and you're doing work that is respectable and it's a contribution, whether it's comedy or whatever, I don't care. But just give something that's valuable.
And what would be the advice you would give to somebody that's beginning their journey for elder care, and what advice would you give to somebody who wants to make a documentary or wants to write a screenplay? What are some things that you've learned along the way, and what would you want to share? Besides do it yourself?
Well, no, I mean, right now it's difficult to pitch, right? So you have more opportunity to do it yourself right now. It's actually a good time to do things yourself. So I'm going to say you can. And there are so many platforms and avenues for you to take advantage of. And I think as a writer, I really do think that your power comes from what you know. Even if it's not your story per se, but if you're fascinated with ancient Rome and that's your jam, then write about it, because you're going to write about it with more passion than anyone else, and your stories are important, even though, oh my God, our stories are so important. They really impact and they touch people in, even if you feel like they're so intimate to you, they're actually universal. The more intimate they are, the more universal they are. And so I think if we tell our stories, that's the way to pay it forward as an artist.
Do you like documentaries more than anything else, or do you? No.
The documentaries are super hard. They're super hard. I mean, you get all this material and you're like, oh my God, what do I do? How do I fashion this now? Like, there's so much to tell, and it's so much, and it's like, how do you do it? And I think I can just say for me, I looked at all the material and I wrote a script as if it was a 3-act screenplay. That's what I did. Mm-hmm. And I really did it in acts and in scenes, and I broke it down so that it was understandable and also manageable.
The docuseries is No Country for Old People. It is streaming on Amazon Prime, Hoopla, Tubi. Is that what it's called? Tubi?
Tubi,
And I don't have that.
And more.
Yeah.
There'll
And
be more coming. Just follow us on social media and
Which is nocountryforoldpeople.com. Okay. And where can they find you and your podcast? Your
Love Conquers All is on all the podcast platforms, and you can find me at Susie Singer Carter on everywhere. Probably too much, and I don't blame you if you don't want to come see me. But do watch the documentary. I promise you it's important, and you need to, share it with other people, because we need to get outside of our echo chamber from the people that already know about it, because I don't want other people to be sucker punched like I was. When you're in crisis, that's the worst time to make decision.
Right. And I don't think anyone would get tired of you. You're a leader and an inspiration. So I certainly will be tracking you down on all the ways I can find you. So
thank you. Well, it's my birthday, so happy birthday to me. This is a great birthday
Happy
present
birthday.
from the WGA to be here. I'm honored, and I can't thank you enough.
Susie Singer Carter, thank you so much. This is a real pleasure. I got to hug you.
Okay, me too. You.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Third and Fairfax. You can listen and subscribe to Third and Fairfax on Spotify, Apple, and Libsyn, and watch us on the Writers Guild of America West's YouTube channel. Also check out writtenby.com, the Guild's online publication, for more on writer craft, career, and union life. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.